What does this 1939 banknote tell us about colonialism in the Caribbean? Let's find out.
Money.
I'm Dr. Brad Hafford, archaeologist and economic anthropologist. In this series, I'm decoding the various stories embedded within paper money and uncovering interesting facts about countries around the world. Today, I'm looking at a $1 note issued in British colonial Trinidad and Tobago in 1939. Many countries place an important person prominently on their banknotes, and that person is often a leader of the nation or is an integral part of its history. Yet here we have two scenes of ships on the water. On the right is a tall ship under sail, not far from shore. On the shoreline are a few houses of a small village, and in the foreground are lush growing plants, including the chiconia, the wild poinsettia, which is now the national flower of Trinidad and Tobago. It is said to bloom on August 31st, the day that the islands gained their independence from Britain in 1962. There's also a solitary coconut palm. Coconuts are not native to the Caribbean, but were transplanted there by various colonial powers because they were so useful to maritime travel. Not only did they provide food and drink, but if split correctly, they could also be used as cups, bowls, or containers. They were so important that sailors could be beaten for wasting them. At left, there are three ships anchored in a guarded harbor. Their sails are down and they peacefully await loading, unloading, or customs checks. A small rowboat moves in from the closest vessel. The ship's ensign, the flag at the rear, identifies the ship, but it's difficult to make out at this level of detail. We can see that it has an upper emblem that looks a lot like an asterisk. That's the Union Jack, an element also seen on the flag flying over the harbor fort. British colonies took the Union Jack as part of their flags to indicate their dependent status. It also occupied the corner position on the Royal Naval Ensign, and the ship at the harbor is likely British Navy. The flag on the fort should be that of Trinidad and Tobago when it was a colony of the British Empire, but the small size of the image makes it difficult to see clearly. The Trinidad and Tobago colonial flag had the Union Jack in the upper corner on a blue field. In the field was a symbol or coat of arms that is the same image of the three ships at harbor depicted on this note. On the flag, the emblem is shown in more detail. Here we can see that the closest ship is flying an English naval ensign and that the men in the rowboat are redcoats. At the bottom portion of both the seal and the note is the motto, Misceraque probat populus et foedera jungi. That's Latin meaning he approves of the mingling of the peoples and their bonds of union. This is the motto of Trinidad, the name of which stands beneath the motto in a dark oval. The name of the smaller island, Tobago, appears in an oval at right, beneath its motto, Pulchrior evenet, and that means she becomes more beautiful. Both mottos refer to the joining of the islands under one administration in 1889. The issuer of the note is stated only as the government of Trinidad and Tobago, not mentioning Britain or colony status. The text goes on to show that the value of the note is $1, and that was equivalent to the old Spanish silver dollar that was British 4 shillings and 2 pence. The place of issuance is Port of Spain, which is the capital city in Trinidad. So we have a dollar currency issued in a place named for Spain under British authority. And this reflects the complex history of Trinidad and Tobago. The date of issuance follows 2nd January 1939. Below this, we find the signatures of 3 financial officials, all with the title Commissioner of Currency. Most banknotes include such signatures to increase trust in the paper, since it's really just a promise that a bank will honor the note. In this case, the note promises that it will be accepted by the government, as attested by the commissioners who signed it. Behind the signatures are the words $1, connected with no spacing so that they form a dense background. This is part of the security features of the note, along with the central color burst, green and orange. Counterfeiters would have difficulty duplicating that detail and color. Moving more deeply into the background design, we see yet another safety feature. Not only is the engraving impressively detailed, but there is also a background of fine red lines in close diagonals running from upper left to lower right. They are not all that visible from afar, but when you zoom in, you can really see them. The framing of the note is also elaborate, consisting of architectural curlicues and leafy designs and underlying intricate webwork. And at the very bottom is the name of the printers. The British company, Thomas De La Rue. The serial number overprinted in bold red is a further security measure, ensuring that each note was unique in some way. And there is a final hidden feature embedded in the paper itself, the watermark. When a light shines through from behind, the watermark is visible. It's made by slightly varying the thickness of the paper so that light is hindered in some areas more than others, and that forms an image when light shines through. In this case, the image is simply the word Trinidad. If a counterfeiter managed to fake the elaborate designs, the colors, and the serial number sequence of the carefully designed and intricate note, there would still be this internal paper element to consider. If a fake was suspected, all that was needed was to hold the note up to a light to make sure that the watermark was there. Well, now let's look at the reverse. The reverse of a note will usually emphasize its circulating value and often the laws that protect it. This one, like many British notes, does not place a great deal of emphasis on these aspects. It tends to rely on its security features to deter counterfeiting, and so the reverse holds little text. It does reiterate the value of the note in two places. It's got the big number 1. It also reiterates the name of the authority, Government of Trinidad and Tobago. Once again, the design is highly elaborate. Architectural leaves and lacy webs fill the frame surrounding the numbers and the central image. And there is a hint of yellow color deep in the background, not just from the dirt that's gathered from the countless hands that have handled this. In fact, there's a subtle frame of yellow lines, mostly in thin diagonals like the red ones seen on the front. But it is the central image that garners the most attention and that affirms the British connection to the islands and the banknote. The image is the British coat of arms, firmly entrenched in centuries of British history. At left stands the English lion, complete with crown, while at right stands the Scottish unicorn, though with chained crown around its neck. In the center is the king's crown, atop a belted garter on which stands the motto, On y soit qui mal y pense, which is French for shame on him who thinks ill of it. The central shield contains 4 quarters, representing England in 2 parts, Scotland and Ireland in the other 2. Below is a ribbon on which is yet another motto, Dieu et mon droit, God and my right. The image would be recognized by most at the time as signifying Britain's might and its ultimate control of these islands. Essentially, it showed that Britain was the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So if England was so powerful and in control, why not place their king on the note? Trinidad and Tobago are islands in the southeastern Caribbean, not far from the Venezuelan coast. Columbus sighted them on his 3rd voyage in 1498 and claimed them as territory for Spain. Tobago was ceded to Britain in 1763 and Trinidad in 1802. They were joined together as a crown colony in 1889. The first bank in Trinidad was established in 1837 and utilized Spanish silver dollars, colloquially known as pieces of 8, as the unit of account. Around 1879, the silver dollars were officially demonetized, and British currency circulated in the islands. But accounts were still most often kept in dollars at a conversion rate of 4 shillings and 2 pence. After the First World War and into the Great Depression, a weakened England struggled to maintain its colonies. Nationalist groups were on the rise, and labor unions formed to put more power in the hands of the people. Trinidad and Tobago gained some semblance of local control in 1925 when the first elections to its Legislative Council were held. 7 of the 13 members were elected, and only 5 were nominated by the British governor. Not long after, a dollar unit became official once more with the Currency Interpretation Ordinance of 1934, and that mandated a circulating dollar. Rising local control is one of the reasons for not placing the king on the banknote. But private banks in the East Caribbean colonies had issued paper money in the past, and these had not featured the king. And the design for this new note was completed in 1935, at the very end of George V's reign. An official portrait of George VI would not yet have been ready, though he was featured on Canadian and Australian notes by 1937. And his father had been featured on notes of many colonies, such as this one from Hong Kong in 1935. So a big reason for not featuring either George probably was the push for autonomy and the gradual decolonization process. After the Second World War, decolonization began to speed up. In Trinidad and Tobago, a national movement arose strongly in 1956, and the islands gained their independence in 1962. In 1976, they became a republic within the Commonwealth. I hope you enjoyed investigating this banknote with me. I'm Dr. Brad Hafford. Join me next time on Note Nook, part of my series, Money Talks.